Me and John found on the beach that summer, July 15th, 1995. This was the only information posted alongside this image depicting what looks to be a possibly anomalous creature. This image was uploaded to Twitter by anomalous investigator Trevor Henderson, who basically just takes a big steamy dump on the Foundation's rules and regulations as part of his morning routine at this point. While this isn't a ton of information, we can still gauge a lot about the nature of this creature by examining the photo and caption presented. It looks as though this evidence was taken from a family photo album, and the writer of the photo's caption seems to be completely unaware that they've stumbled upon a possibly preternatural creature. Just another Tuesday, finding a demonic sea cucumber for this oblivious fuck. The creature's anatomy looks almost nonsensical. From what we can see, it has two mouths, one on its side, and one on its head where it's supposed to be, two eyes, and what appears to be an additional sensory organ that might be used for smell, but it could also detect electrical signals like some species of shark. It's important to note that this creature may have the same setup on the other side of its body, if it's bilaterally symmetrical, meaning that it would have 3 total mouths, 4 total eyes, and an additional receptor. Although, this goober looks like a Cronenberg Build-A-Bear, so chances are, all rules go out the window with Lovecraft's platypus over here. The photo is blurry, but it looks like on the tail end of the body, it has a long flipper. The creature's corpse is obviously not in great condition, waterlogged to shit and gored beyond belief. Chances are, there are aspects of this creature's anatomy that were lost to these processes. You know, I've actually heard that opening up your midsection just like a little bit is actually good for you. It's nice to feel the breeze on your bare organs, really let your insides breathe, you feel me? Because it looks like it went through the garbage disposal, we can't know if it had something on its side, like a flipper or an arm or a dick. Although, we know it has bones now, I guess. I was just gonna assume that anyway. One theory that may make sense for this organism is that it could lay flat like one of those stupid pancake fishes. While the multiple mouth holes might look pointless and stupid, and they might be, they also could suggest a generalist lifestyle adaptation. It could use its side mouth to feed on particles and critters from above like an ambush predator, but still have the option to chase down, kill, and consume faster moving or smarter prey because of its forward-facing set of jaws. Nature is just so beautiful sometimes. I mean, not right now. This makes me want to kill the last remaining member of a critically endangered species out of spite, but I don't know, make 2 bugs fight or something. Now, I know we're all concerned with what this creature is, but I think we're asking the wrong questions. If this life follows the same rules as all known Earth life, it would be the product of evolution by natural selection. Question is, what kind of environment would lead to the evolution of a creature such as this? Whatever the hell kind of selective pressures bred this thing looked to be incredibly intense. Snakes didn't evolve venom that can kill creatures 10 times their size to fend off mice. Sharks didn't evolve multiple rows of jagged teeth to eat and defend themselves from guppies. And whatever the fuck this phallic thing is, didn't evolve 2 mouths full of razor blades to eat shrimp, damn it! You think this washed up sea dildo is scary? Imagine the creatures this thing needs to defend itself from. This brings up my next question. Look at the large wound on its body. I can't spot another wound on the creature's body, and that's not how natural decomposition works. This means that this was likely an injury sustained while this creature was alive. Something as frightening as this would be an apex predator, right? You'd think, but if you look at the gash on its torso, not that one for long enough, you may notice that it resembles a bite mark. If those are the size of the jaws, what took the bite? The Mermaids of River John, 1918. This town in Nova Scotia has seen many stories of animals described as mermaids over the years. This picture caused a lot of debate, and although many dismissed it as a hoax, some believe it to be real. A picture from the same area in 1922 shows another strange shape below the water. Critics claim it was just a small whale. The North Atlantic Mermaids, 2016. The controversial image was taken by a pair of divers as they approached a pod of what they described as mermaids. Some have claimed this as evidence of an undiscovered cetacean species. The Mermaid Fall, 2019. This cetacean carcass was found during a seafloor expedition near Puerto Rico. Some have called it a mermaid owing to its strikingly humanoid features, but biologists claimed its heavily decomposed state cannot offer a positive identification. Well, mermaids are real. Who knew except all of humanity for literally the entire amount of time you shitheads could document things? Let's go over what we know. First of all, these mermaids are notably different from many other mermaids of lore. Rather than being half beautiful woman and half fish or some sort of weird eel man, these mermaids are massive in scale, looking more along the lines of a whale-human hybrid than a fish-human hybrid. While a popular explanation for these creatures was that early humans, or some sort of human ancestor, went into the ocean for one reason or another, probably resources, and slowly evolved into dolphin people, as displayed by this dumbass Animal Planet CGI documentary, upon further investigation, this does not appear to be the case. DNA analysis of the parts of the corpse that we did not eat proved that the quote-unquote mermaids are actually a species of yet unidentified cetaceans, the same family that includes dolphins and whales. Though these creatures are related to whales, through convergent evolution, they have evolved more human-like characteristics. To be able to hunt more effectively and use tools, they've traded their front flippers for hands. The ability to skillfully manipulate the environment could prove very useful in the ocean. For one, the amount of foods that require either great force or great thought to extract from their shells/skeletons/houses down here are vast. And said skeleton houses are made from calcium, which is a prime material to be reshaped into tools. Maybe, I don't know, don't Google it. I at least know it would be a lot harder for a regular whale to jerk off. While the facial structure in the skull and the grabbers on the end of their arms suggest a relation to humanity, these creatures are actually genetically much closer to deer than to people. Not that there's really much of a difference in my eye. Both look the same in headlights. Moving on, looking at their skull structure, it looks strikingly humanoid, with roughly the same dentition as a human as well, suggesting that they've maintained an omnivorous diet. Not only this, but it looks as though their head is structured to allow for a large brain. How smart these things are is a mystery, but if they can use tools and avoid human cameras for decades, chances are they got a lot of wrinkles in their head meatballs. I hear what you're saying. Wait, so sea people just evolved completely separately from land people and somehow have identical front limb and skull structure and are even similar enough to have human-like tits? Yep, you're not nearly as special as you once thought. Weird how that keeps happening. These creatures are around 6 to 7 human wingspans long from head to tail, and chances are they can get much longer. I bet you're wondering how the hell these fat asses stayed hidden for so long despite their size. Chances are, these creatures, with their higher intelligence, noticed the trouble that humanity usually causes. A smart being would likely vacate whatever area is heavily trafficked by the animal kingdom's version of a serial killer, so the sea people would vacate the surface whenever humans were around, diving incredibly deep to avoid the fates that many species of whale and large sea life suffered. I mean, if I were them, I would run from you guys too. I saw what you turned wolves into. Humans and cetaceans are among the most intelligent organisms on the planet, so chances are, these mermaids are pretty smart too. We can gauge from one of the images that they display social behavior, traveling in groups. The term would be pods if we considered them whales, and angry mob if we considered them human. The evolution of grasping hands leads one to believe that these cetaceans were using tools. These traits show advanced intelligence, and if they're intelligent enough to develop tools and live in large social groups, they might be intelligent enough to form some semblance of a society. It's possible that they could have an even more advanced society than humanity. I can already hear you whining. How would they develop advanced technology without the energy given by fire? Ooh. And first of all, you've been complaining a lot this episode, so fucking quit it. And second, ever hear of a hydrothermal vent? Well, if not, they're like little volcanoes, but under the water. They get pretty damn hot and put off a lot of chemical energy too. I bet there's a way to put those pieces together, so just because you're too dumb to figure it out doesn't mean the mermaids are. The ocean covers 71% of the Earth's surface, and 50 to 80% of all life is found under the waves. How well do you really know what you're swimming with? Or worse, what's below you? The sea eater is an eyeless, ocean-dwelling creature of unknown length. While the sea eater is far too large to fit into any body of water other than the deep ocean, this still doesn't mean that you should feel safe on the toilet. On each side, there are massive limbs that resemble arms, except with webbed extremities. This creature navigates on sonar alone, and it's thought that it's responsible for the famous yet unidentified bloop recording. Shut the fuck up, Animal Planet. It's not fucking mermaids. Anyways, if humans were smart, they'd just nuke this big stupid fucker with sonar and get it over with. Get rid of all the whales too while you're at it. This creature consumes anything it comes across, including but not limited to small to large sea fauna ranging from clouds of plankton to pods of whales, ocean vessels such as boats, cruise ships, aircraft carriers, and submarines, and other ocean megafauna such as the Marianas Trench megalodon population. The tip of this creature's gaping maw is just above 32,000 feet high when it rarely breaches the surface. This trait gets even more unsettling when one realizes that airplanes fly at around 30,000 feet. One of the rare direct surface encounters with this creature was found in the black box of an airplane that was swallowed and found full of skeletons in a giant legendary undersea turd. It's thought that this creature moves by dragging itself along the seafloor with its giant uncanny valley arms. While this behemoth seems like it would be slow if it was dragging its belly across the floor like a morbidly obese slug, it can actually reach speeds of up to 575 miles per hour. The probably 10-year-old on the fandom writes that it's faster, but how am I supposed to make this that stupidly overpowered when the document reads, Sea Eater once fought Slithering Doom and Sea Eater won. It eats anything even large size, which helps it to catch flying creatures like manta and flying vehicles. Undersea, it eats creatures plankton and even feed on vertebrates and invertebrates. He can eat every ocean ever.
You dare question my flawlessly written lore? I am the Sea Eater, consumer of the deep.
Nice to meet you, C-Cup. I'm AzFk, consumer of Red Bull vodkas.
Why aren't you freaking out?
Sea Eater, if you saw my search history and learned what I got off to, you'd have nightmares for weeks. Amazon makes it like way too easy to buy like a literal machete as a child, and I know because I did it. The underbelly. An endless liminal expanse of tunnels and pipes that belong to the underground systems that keep society functioning. Subways, catacombs, sewers, any structure created to deal with the waste of society and keep it moving. Few know exactly how to enter the underbelly. In fact, most of who find themselves there do so by accident. All it takes is to take a wrong turn poking your nose where it doesn't belong below ground. One fast food executive, however, found himself in the underbelly searching for answers. There are many questions that may never have an answer. What's the meaning of life? Is there life after death? How many licks does it take to get to the center of a Tootsie Pop? Among those unanswerable questions was one that stood above the rest. One so shrouded in mystery that among every scholar and philosopher who came across it, none left with an appropriate response. Who the fuck actually eats at Long John Silver's? Even the absolute shittiest restaurants infect the one person willing to give them a shot with food poisoning every once in a while. This exec had never seen a single person enter one, so how the hell was he getting paid? Was Long John Silver's just one big money laundering operation? And if so, where was the money really coming from? He began to have trouble sleeping at night, with images of crack kingpins, human trafficking, and hamster prostitution. He needed to know. Looking to the internet for answers as his chronically online ass often did, he saw he was not the only one wondering this. He was looking for someone claiming to have eaten at the restaurant of his employment, but all he saw was more people looking for people claiming to have eaten there. He was at a dead end. In attempts to explain how they survive as a business, the executive at LJS searched everywhere for a possible market of where they got their customers. While watching the iconic LJS Dr. Norman Big Fish commercial, it finally hit him. What if people aren't what's eating there? Long John Silver's is a fish restaurant. Yes, that means it serves fish, but that's not all it means. If they couldn't find someone willing to eat at Long John Silver's, they must have found something willing to eat at Long John Silver's. The executive was looking in the wrong place. When your food comes from the water, why look to land for customers? He thought back to a local urban legend, a fishman who was rumored to live in the sewers, feeding on the refuse of the modern world. Sounds like a guy who'd enjoy some Long John Silver's. Half man, half fish, with a palate perfectly suited to what the LJS Corporation advertises as food. After taking 17 tabs of acid and watching The Shape of Water in reverse, the executive knew what had to be done. He had to find their actual customers. If there was a place where this beautiful hybrid creature could live and still have access to Long John Silver's, it must have been the sewers. The executive packed a go bag and entered the first manhole he could find. He wasn't well acquainted with the confusing underground structures, so he slipped into the underbelly quite quickly. He hadn't even noticed any of the Lovecraftian changes to the infrastructure, or even some of the peculiar creatures hiding in the shadows. He was a man on a mission. He laid a Long John Silver's fish sandwich combo on the side of one of the fecal-tainted rivers, and waited, and waited, and waited. After a few hours, he dozed off. He awoke to the sound of squelching water and crumpling food wrappers. As he opened his eyes, he was face to face with something inhuman. Half man, half fish, just as the legends described. Even more shocking, it was somehow eating the Long John Silver's sandwich, like it was food! The fishman's gaze was fixed on the sandwich and fries combo, but as the jaw of the executive dropped, they locked eyes. The fishman hesitantly pointed directly at the LJS shirt that the exec always wore under every other clothing item he owned. It must have recognized the symbol from the packaging. It started squeaking a strange chant from its gills, before more and more fish people gathered around it. The executive emptied his backpack, filling the space in front of him with Long John Silver's. The fishmen shrieked in rejoice, leapt to the walkway, and devoured everything the executive had to give them. When they were finished, they all made eye contact with him, and the one in the front extended their hand. The executive took it, and before he knew what was happening, they were whisking him through the shitwater. In moments, he was at what looked like their home, a clearing in the sewer, littered with LJS wrappers. As the fishman moved and bustled about their activities, he got a closer look at them. They had smooth, slippery skin, sharp teeth, bulbous eyes, and a body that looked exactly like what would happen if a fish person were to survive solely on Long John Silver's. Atop this fat neck is a face similar to an anglerfish, with the same sort of flapdoodle that the angler uses to hunt. Instead, they use it to see and carry out tasks that need light. Some were reading, some were writing, some were painting. I mean, everything that they can paint is made with shit, so it's all greens and browns, and they go to this really unhealthy guy's pipes to get red, but still pretty cool. Better than you can paint. The LJS Corporation was able to survive for so long with not even a single human customer because they were supporting an entire fish society. Then, he looked up. He felt like he recognized where he was. The lead fishman again took his hand and led him to a waterfall, where the executive claimed without prompting that they definitely didn't have sex. And then the fishman took him up the waterfall. They went a long, long way. He couldn't breathe and struggled to get free, but the fishman held on. At some point, he went unconscious due to lack of oxygen. He awoke, soaking wet and completely naked, in the very same Long John Silver's he had gotten the sandwiches from. And that, my friends, is where I've been, and my idea for the future of this company. Also, I didn't have sex with the fishman, if anyone was wondering.
Dave, you haven't been back to work in 2 weeks, and you come back covered in human shit, insult the entire company, and interrupt my meeting to scream about fish people? That took a lot of guts. I think you just might have what it takes to be partner material. Anyone else have some radical new ideas like my main man Dave here?
Maybe it would be easier to rebrand or change the menu.
Anyone else trying to crush my childlike wonder?
How do fish people get money?
The Death Valley National Park has become a flashpoint for anomalous activity. These phenomena are centered around the Devil's Hole cave system. Among the happenings, there are reports of shifting geography within the cavern, reality distortions, and even an otherworldly ecosystem of confounding creatures. Several investigators have been assigned to find the source of these anomalies, but most of them have gone missing. The ones who do come back report further implausible sightings and show symptoms of insanity. Nevertheless, people not only continued to visit the cave, but tourism increased. In an attempt to decrease the number of people going missing, the independent company Lucicorp took over expeditions to the cave and closed it to the public until it could be better understood and made safe for civilian activity. Oftentimes, the best encouragement you can give a human being to go somewhere is a big red sign that says "Do not enter." Emilio Cruz and Cal Crookshank were no exception. After several years of becoming increasingly obsessed with the place following a series of online videos discussing the anomalies, Emilio convinced his college roommate Cal to check it out with him. Cal was always dismissive of anomalous phenomena, thinking the whole thing was a hoax. He figured that it was shut to the public anyways, and maybe if he went, Emilio would finally shut up about it for good. So, Cal agreed, and Emilio led them to the caves. The two of them managed to sneak past what little fortifications that Lucicorp labeled security with ease. That's the last time either of them was heard from, until Emilio showed up at a police station, 400 miles from the Devil's Hole. His family reported him going missing a month ago, but he swore he was only in the cave a couple days at most. Emilio's eyewitness description is as follows. I figured we'd be fine. I did all the research. I thought the biggest thing to fear was a rock falling on my head. Cal was more scared of running out of water. We forgot about those concerns real quick though. Things seemed fine for the first few minutes, until we reached a dead end. We turned around to go back, but suddenly our path was stopped by a thick wall of glass in a blinding fractal pattern. It got closer to us, trapping us between it and the dead end as its pattern spread across the cave walls. Cal was panicking and cursing me for bringing him, but I managed to convince him to charge the encroaching fractal. Right before it crushed us, we grabbed onto each other and rushed. We broke through the thin glass wall. The part of the cave we were in looked nothing like it did before. The dead end was gone, and instead, we were in the middle of an intersection. We had 4 ways to go, but they all looked like the same endless path, except for the walls. In 3 directions, the cave walls moved like a wave. The 4th hallway, the one we went down, had smooth walls with perfect corners. They were still cave walls, but it felt like smooth, like someone built it. And it was lit like there were torches, but I didn't see any. The only reminder of where we were was the stalactites, arranged on the ceiling in perfect rows. Water dripped down them, creating tiny pools, shallow enough to see our reflections. They seemed to shimmer under the invisible torchlight. As we walked, we tried to avoid the puddles, but eventually, Cal stepped in one. Rather than cause a splash, he fell straight through. He was fully submerged before I even knew what was going on. I ran to the water and stuck my head in to see if I could find him, but I quickly realized these were more than just some puddles. Underneath the surface, they were connected by an unfathomably deep body of water. There were some elevated ledges on the sides of the cave, but at some points I couldn't see the bottom. The surface of the ledges were filled with bones. Some human, some I didn't recognize. In the middle of the lake was Cal, struggling to find his way out for a breath of air. I tried to shout at him. I just choked on the water. As he floated there, one of those little tiny pupfish swam up to him. I had no idea those things lived so deep. Cal looked it in the eye. He seemed to find some calmness in that moment. That was until the tiny blue fish opened its mouth, showing off layers of sharp teeth so bright I could make out every single one of them. Thousands of pairs of eyes opened on the sides of the cave. More pupfish than I could count raced out of the tiny nooks in the rocks. Cal tried to swim up, looking for the way out. He finally spotted me, but before he had the chance, a dozen pupfish bit down on his ankles. He let out a muffled scream as the fish dragged him down, his eyes bulging from the pressure. I saw a couple pupfish eyeing me, hoping I would try to save him. It was hopeless. Once they had him pinned at the bottom, the rest of the fish pounced. They devoured him. They left his neck and head alone at first, as if they wanted him to experience every moment of it. Within moments, Cal was picked clean, and the pieces of his skeleton drifted apart before settling amongst the other corpses. When they were done, the pupfish turned towards me and rushed the surface. My head shot out of the water, and I started sprinting before I even knew what was in front of me. I turned to see the mouth of the cave, just a few feet away where before there was an endless hallway. It was as if something was letting me out. I emerged in a totally different part of the valley from where I wandered. Thankfully, Cal made me bring enough water to last until I found my way back to town. I don't know what I experienced, but fuck those fish. Pupfish endangered my ass. Endanger your ass? Don't mind if I do. Maybe next time a company called Lucicorp tells you not to go somewhere, don't. You know the phrase, curiosity killed the cat? Yeah, I've met your cats. They would have turned around. You fuckers are the one dying from curiosity. So let's talk about these fish so you idiots can go look for them. Emilio described them as pupfish. Devil's Hole pupfish are little bright blue fish found only in the waters of the Devil's Hole cave. Until now, their numbers have never been recorded at more than 500 individuals. But Emilio reported seeing thousands of these little guys, with notably different physiology than their commonly reported surface counterparts. Pupfish are known for their ability to live in low oxygen environments, so that's likely how they were able to sustain such a massive population much deeper within the Devil's Hole. Whatever the hell ate Cal certainly wasn't the harmless herbivorous pupfish we're familiar with, though. To make things easier, I'm gonna call the larger carnivorous pupfish a wolfish. I know that wolfish already exist, and it's confusing, but scientists can't name things for shit anyway. So why should I have to be the one that has to change? Wolfish hunt in a pack, much like piranha and wolves. Also like piranha, they tear their victims apart with admirable efficiency, leaving behind only bones, or to use the scientific term, dog toys. These fish are not only fearsome, but the underground body of water they inhabit seems to be anomalous. From above, the entrances to the lake look only like puddles, but this is actually due to the light that emanates from the caverns above the lake. This light reflects off the top of the lake in a manner where it makes the water look only inches deep, when in reality it's connected to a deep lake with a violent riptide that quickly sucks the victim into the center. No one knows exactly where the light comes from, but it seems to emanate somewhere from within the cave walls. Sometimes victims would step in on their own, but it seems as though the wolfish are aware of how cute they look, and they use it to lure humans, both to touch the puddle and to their doom. Just look at this old guy. How could anyone suspect what he is planning? That's when they get you. The first drop of blood in the water summons a horde of fellow wolffish, who chomp up your fleshy bits, like, well, wolves, or fish. I don't know. My favorite part about the endangered pupfish is how they taste when I eat them. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe with all notifications enabled, otherwise Cal died for nothing. Shout out the inner circle. Love y'all.